Ayo.
Welcome to Benchwarmers a WOSO podcast, episode 27. 27. The World Cup Qualifiers round two, where we go around the grounds and talk about all the upsets, all the fun, all the comms, all the good stuff, right? So we'll start with England and Iceland, where this was one of those Lionesses games where you think to yourself, who's the player who's going to step up? And today it was Lucy Bronze. Oh my God. Lucy Bronze had one of her Hulk games. I think Lucy Bronze is just, she is loose banner. She is the Hulk, and she chooses when to be the Hulk and take the team on her back. And she presses the button. And she does it for Chelsea when she wants to. She does it for England when she wants to. And this is just one of those games where you're just like, how is she still doing this? How is she still murdering sides? The Dottiers were just bawling out when, you had Russo taking chances. It wasn't working. LJ was starting in this game and doing really nice things. And Hempo had a great chance earlier on. And you're like, who's going to break the deadlock in this game? And it's Lucy Bronze. Lucy Bronze is the player scoring a goal in 145th cap for the Lionesses. And you just think to yourself, well, okay, it doesn't matter who the next right back or the next right back is, because Lucy Bronze will never lose her spot in the Lionesses. On your shoulder. Perennially the right back of this team.
I think that Lucy Bronze is a player that is the most reliable probably in the world. And I think that that's not really a hot take anymore. I think that we're over this discussion. Yeah, she is the pseudo leader. Yeah, she's the pseudo leader. She is the player that you can most depend on. She's also the player that I think is the most versatile, despite having incredibly versatile players in this England setup. I think she can use the best of every player around her. So LJ was at her best, swinging it from left to right over to Lucy Bronze. Alessia Russo was best, holding the ball up, allowing for someone like Lauren Hemp and then Lucy Bronze to just bomb on. These things, they all work in tandem to create a player and to create a performance from a player that is more than expected against an Iceland team that posed an interesting threat. They weren't necessarily the greatest threat, but I think it's respectable that they only kept this England side to 2 goals.
And I mean, you talked about Alessia Russo holding up the ball, but her off-ball runs yet again. It's when she does that. Yep. That's what opened up the space for Georgia Stanway to absolutely rifle that ball into the net. This is her 8th goal in the last 5 England games. She's absolutely cooking in this 8.5, 10 role for the Lionesses. I mean, she is just getting better and better as this season goes on. And I mean, it's funny because every time they talk about Alessia or Stanway scoring, because they're even on goals for the Lionesses, they're like, oh, she's overtaken her. She's overtaken her. It's like the most annoying leaderboard of all time, because I think they love each other so much, but they actually hate this leaderboard. It was Alessia scored a brace against Ukraine, and then Georgia Stanway was like, nah, you dare take this on. And then she was just like, I'll score a brace. So now I'm 2 ahead again, and now I've scored again. So she's now 3 ahead, and it's this really, really funny
And then
race.
Ellen White is just kind of up there, looking down.
Ellen White is just watching them both and why am I not playing right now? I could be doing a Michelle Heyman right now. But I mean, look, it was pretty easy for England. 70% possession against the side that, look, I think Iceland would give many a team a run, because they do have good players. Shout out to Runar's Dottir in goal, who made some pretty ripper saves as well. It's just one of those things where when the time comes for an individual player to rise to an occasion, even when Jessen had the best chance for Iceland, Hannah Hampton makes an amazing save. The moments that they get, it's just brilliant, and that's what I can say about the Lionesses in comparison to the US women's national team, where it's like the US women's national team, you watch them and you think, okay, you're just this absolute crop of players who've been destined to play for the US women's national team, and there's going to be a moment, these brilliant moments, and you're going to get amazing games where they just trounce teams and dominate. But with this team, there is it feels like a club side, like they're chopping and changing the tactics that come through. It's because they all play in the same league. They're all culturally like adept to each other, and I think it only will become more when these players start moving home, right? So Stanway, who's playing so well in this mix, is about to come home to England, and it'll only get better in my opinion, personally. But I don't know if that changes things. I mean, it's an interesting precedent to see where she will go, obviously, and where she'll be able to play her best football within England, because I mean, I just don't think that we need her. I don't think we're going to go after her. So it is an Arsenal question, it is a Chelsea question, a United question. I mean, United have asked the question of now a bunch of players in that recent post where they talked about their transfer targets. But I mean, whoever gets this, let's say she does go to Arsenal, her ability to play well with Alessia Russo will only strengthen. But then if she goes to United, her ability to play well with Jess Park will strengthen. So it is exciting to see what like hyperlinks, for the lack of a better term, you'll get from Georgia Stanway.
I think the players are obviously of importance. I think you can't underestimate how important it is also to have a leader in Serena Wiegmann, who is going to go into her 5th year next year as Lionesses coach. And that just creates a bond. It creates chemistry. It creates trust.
The Lionesses den. The Lionesses den.
And I think one of the things that, if we go into the Sweden-Serbia game, one of the things that I think Sweden is struggling right now is adopting a style of football that is not foreign to them. Gustavsson doesn't play a distinctly different football to Sweden's usual style of football. But I think what Sweden are trying to do is trying to fit so many puzzle pieces into a very, very easy and very simple puzzle. We're playing players too much. We're playing players too little. It's players playing who don't usually start for Sweden or don't usually are not in their first team and going on because they underestimate a team like Serbia to their own detriment. Obviously, it was a 0-0 draw. I don't know. I wonder what you think about how Sweden came out in this game and how you think Gustavsson is going to try and motivate this team for the rest of the qualifiers.
I don't understand the Sweden national team right now look like a hybrid of the weirdest youth academy of ballers in their own right, but then these experienced players who are happy to just sit on the bench. I don't understand. If I'm Stina Blackstenius, if I'm Rosa Kafaji and I'm Fridolina Rolfo, or even Evelyn EJ, put it that way, Evelyn EJ is 24 years old. She's not that young, right? Yeah. Jordan Barr and Schroeder are literally under the age of 21. Yeah. They are youngsters. They are going to be amazing players. But in my head, there's a hierarchy. There is a hierarchy. Fridolina Rolfo should be starting games for Sweden. No question about it. Stina Blackstenius should be starting games for Sweden. And I don't know if it's a coach thing, because we all know Tony G can do that. But 16 shots, 2 on target, not good enough. Just not good enough against a team like Serbia. You have the possession. You have the ability to break them down. Obviously, we know JRK isn't the most clinical flank player in the world, but putting 2 18 to 20-year-olds next to them isn't going to make her more clinical, isn't going to make her chance creation easier for her. And I think to myself, and I go, you have all this amazing talent and you're not using it right. But we know this is what Tony G does. He doesn't play to the player's strengths. He has his system and he thinks it's going to build. And don't get me wrong, they're miserly at the back. And we said it last week, when you have a team of Anderson and Lundqvist and Natalie Bjorn, who's going to come back, and Falk in goal, it's very impenetrable. But 0-0 isn't good enough. 0-0 isn't good enough against Serbia, especially when Serbia were arguably the ones who, in my opinion, closest to scoring the goal. I think that long-range strike from Milivojevic was a great chance. It hit the near post, but ultimately, I don't think there was a moment in that game where I thought, even when they brought on Stina and Frida, I just think it wasn't even too late. It's just they didn't have time to settle into this game. And I think when you have Angadal and Zigiotti and Aslani, they're the players who need to be stepping up, getting into aggressive positions to score goals. And I just think Serbia weathered the storm in a way that shows that, I don't know, when you watch that Italy game, right, where they beat Italy and Olme got the winner and it was later on, it makes me think, okay, well, it is kind of that, like, we are relying on our individual brilliance of our high informed players to get us over the line.
I think, and I don't like to profess that I know everything that goes behind the scenes, but watching Gustavsson as much as we do, we know that he underestimates and overestimates teams. And there's a weird chemistry building task that he does in game. It's kind of like he tests the players and how they play with each other in game to the detriment of the system. And I think that the problem with that, and we know that Gustavsson is a man manager. He likes to have players on his side to play his system. But the problem is that you can't really implement a system and a style of football if you do not have a solid starting 11. And the problem with this game is that you had two players who are playing domestically in a league together. Sure, fantastic. And then you have JRK, who's playing in the WSL. She expects to run back post, forward, near post to the goals. And unfortunately, the players were not doing that. They were playing the style of football that they play at home, which is great football. They score a lot of goals, but not against a team like Serbia, who, as I said earlier, completely were not even just underestimated, but I think disrespected. Just not putting your starting 11 on.
No, it's an interesting situation. I mean, Blomqvist not used in this game. Vinberg sitting there. I don't know. I hope it's one game that they just take on the chin, rub it off, onto the next one. But it is weird when they are a top 10 side in the world, and when other top 10 side like Serbia are not a top 20 side in the world. No. And you have a team like Norway, who are much better than them, going up against Germany, and Germany showing you how to use your depth, how to explore new players, how to use different players in their lineup. And I don't know, I give Christian Vuk all the plaudits in the world. I love watching him. I think he's hilarious. I think he's fluid. I think he just plays simple, modern football. Everyone loves a 4-2-3-1. I just don't think you can play. Jomo, I beg you. I beg you. If you rock up with a 4-2-3-1 against North Korea, I think I'll cry. But look, watching Minga come in, Vamsa come in, and Anyomi come in, three players who are not the easiest players to just thread into a team, and they looked so seamless, so effortless. They made light work of Norway. They made Gemma Granger look like the Gemma Granger of how I see her in my mind. And she got, like, that wasn't just Germany's players, like, sitting all over them. And there were moments where Marnum got chances, and Hegerberg got chances, and Gopset had her moments, and they always do. It's just they play into their old habits where Norway just don't get those clinical moments, and Germany just do. Germany just put the game on their back. They work hard to get the ball to the right players. You have players like Ket and Sense working their asses off to get the ball to where they want it to go, and then Sense schmizes that ball into the net for the 1-0. What was that? And then this is another thing that we haven't really talked about when we're talking about, like, volume of shots, because I think Norway did have their fair share of chances, right? But if you're going up against Ann-Katrin Berger, if you're going to shoot, be sure you score, because when you give her chances to save the ball, good luck scoring after she's touched the ball 3-4 times, because AKB just has this, I mean, A for aura, basically. Like, honestly, aura Katrin Berger. Like, as soon as you, like, Gopset and Ada, you've got to shoot those shots knowing you're going to score, because once she made that double save, I thought to myself, well, you're not scoring. You're just not. You're not going to score against arguably who many consider to be the best goalkeeper in the world, specifically the best shot stopper in the world. Like, that's what she's known for. And obviously everyone can remember how amazing she was in the Euros, how amazing she was in the Nations League. Like, her last 6 months has been pretty immense. Her last 12 months has been pretty immense. But then, like, Germany do what they do. They had Vamsa setting up Enderman at the end of the half, and then they had another finish where Anyomi lifts the ball over where Enderman sets her up. It was 2 goals in 2 minutes at the end of the half. Perfect time to score, and makes you go into the half time 3-0 down. You've been absolutely crucified you have a whole team talk ready to go at 45+1, and you have to change everything because at 45+3 you've copped 2 goals by the time you've written your speech, and it's just too hard when the best chances they got in the second half where Marnham was hitting balls over the bar and Berger's saving things onto the bar, and then Yula Brun's putting the ball through the keeper's leg, through Finkerstrad's legs. There is a bit of unlucky. Could this game have been 3-1, 3-2? Maybe. But this is what Germany do. Germany have the ability to make you angry, to make you be like, we probably should have got something out of this game. How did it end up 4-0? And it's because they have a mentality monster in goal. They have world-class players left flanks and right flanks, and then they have new and hungry strikers who are fighting to stay in this team, which is actually what you want sometimes. Yula Brand is a given. Clara Bull is a given when she's playing, but Anyomi isn't always a given, and you have Leah Schule. If she plays herself into form, she'll come back. But Vamsa, Minga, Sense, these are players who want minutes, and they're hungry for minutes, and it showed on the pitch.
I think that what we attribute to German football is very mechanic, very machine-like. They continue to prove us wrong. Every time that there's a minor slip up, every time that you question whether this is a team that can go for trophies, go for tournaments, go for World Cups, they sometimes they just underperform, and then they hit back at us and give us performances like this, performances like last week. Vuk has obviously found the system that he was perfecting in the Euros to now having a system that I think is basically perfect. I would question just some of the defensive efforts, especially allowing Norway to go up. But I think on Norway, this is a team that looks laboured going forward. It is like an effort for them to get the ball up the pitch. And this is not the fluid Norway football that we like. And this is what happens when you don't bring your best players in their best positions. I think that the toying with positions in the Euros has really undermined Gemma Granger's authority over this team. I also think that there is a... personally, to me, I think that there is a problem when you have some of your best players doing especially well and carrying the rest of your team. Of course, there are instances like that everywhere in the world. Very, very good players in not very, very good teams. But this is a not very, very good team. This is a team full of B+ A players being carried by their A+ players, including Marnham, including Gorpset to some extent. I mean, if you're relying on basically a teenager to carry on your left side, that's a bit poor.
But she's not their A+ players. The problem, I would go further. I would say their A+ players aren't delivering enough, and it shows in their club form. I think that's the sad reality, is that sometimes you have players like Rasso and Yula Brand who can absolutely do it for their country, and then for some reason at club level can't do it. Then you have players like Caro, who I think can do it for club, aren't doing it right now. Marnham, similar, where Marnham is having moments for club, but is not to her top level.
Norway's best player, and I think she's come into great form for Arsenal. I think
No. She's come into the great form now, but when she plays for Norway, it just doesn't. I
think she's their best player. In my opinion, I think she's their best player. She's the player that gets on the ball most. She was the player in this game that had the most.
I think no. In this game, she was. In this game,
you don't think in the last games? You don't think in the friendlies previous to this where she had
in the
scored
Euros?
Goals?
Absolutely not.
Euros she was played in the wrong position.
But there was a reason for that, in the sense of that she was playing in the 10. She was playing in her role.
She was playing on the flank.
No. I'm talking about in the first game. The first game in those group stages, she was playing in the 10, and she didn't deliver the chances that she was supposed to. She got 3 chances in that first game, and just did not deliver to the level that she was supposed to against Switzerland. But then against Iceland, that was the game where she set up Caro on that right side, and that was that individual brilliance. For that third game, Marnham was actually in the 10, and then Gopset was on the left, and they were feeding each other, and that's when they had their best moments of the tournament, right? So it's interesting when you watch the players that they go to rely on are the players that they've seen do it before. But my problem is that when Caro isn't feeling it, if Marnham's off and Marnham is not scoring, I personally think Marnham can play well without scoring, but when Marnham is taking shots and not scoring, I think it is really frustrating, and a lot of Arsenal fans do feel that way. I know you're happy for her to take barrages of shots because eventually one of them will go in. But if I'm a Norway fan and Hegerberg is not firing, and Caro's not firing, and Marnham's not firing, and you're relying on Gopset, and the players behind them aren't settling into the game, who are we subbing off? Who are we taking out?
But
Who's making that impact?
My thing is, I don't think that the system is set up to support the players that aren't those top elite players.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that is this Norway side, and Norway, if you look back on their history, have not been a team full of like one or two or three spectacular players who have carried them through tournaments.
It's not a team of champions; it's a champion team.
Yeah,
of historical
and there are teams and there are players who are in that original Norway team in the late 90s or the early 90s, I should say, who were playing domestically. We're not playing at the top levels like, for example, the US teams were, but we're able to reach that level because there was a collective effort. And I feel like, and this might just be from us and seeing in basically the last 12 months, this idea of non-cohesion in teams in terms of the best players feeling like the crappy, quote unquote crappy players are not like worth it. I think there has to be an investigation in basically an athletic investigation into what is happening in this team, because I just don't think that these top tier players are respecting their opponents and helping them in the 90 minutes. Sorry, not their opponents, the lesser players.
Yeah, 100%. And look, we can't look on it with fully rose-tinted glasses. Like we don't need to go back to the 80s and the 90s when they were like the golden generation. But you don't have to go back that far. Like we're talking about Euro runners-up in the early 2000s into the 2013 when that tournament was in Sweden. They were runners up as well. They have history. They do have a pedigree in playing in the World Cup, getting to that round of 16 or the quarterfinals. But it's when you get to the miserly games, the nitty-gritty games, when you're coming up against sides that are better than you, I feel like they do just shell in, and it does drive me nuts when you see a player like Caro or Ada just not being able to be Caro and Ada that we see at a top level. But you compare that to Spain, and Spain played Ukraine, a game that was for them sorrow and pain, as La Roja are just too good. They're just insane, right? And it was relentless, one-way, high-pressing, Bermudez ball. It's fantastic to watch. By the way, we had a chat about Misa not being a potential player, but she was in goal this game.
I don't really know what's going on. I thought that she was on strike.
I thought so. Yeah, I thought so too. But Nanclares wasn't in goal. It was Misa, and and by the way, glad to know that Bermudez is pod pilled. She is listening to the pod. I said Edna Imade had to start. She started and scored the first goal.
I think we have more coaches than players on listening to the pod, Ben.
And so we should. We do tactical analysis that some players may not get. Like that's the game right now. The name is I'd rather the coaches listen to us than the
fair
players.
Enough.
Like
fair
probably
enough.
not for PR, but I wouldn't want Joe Montemura retweeting my content. I just don't think he would. The way we talk about him, I don't think he would.
Hero, Ben.
Yeah, your hero. Yeah. I mean, we can do a dedicated segment in like what our 2019 podcast that we do, episode 2019.
Sure.
You can talk about Jomo.
Thank you.
Salma whipped that ball in and Imade headed it in. When was the last time you saw Spain score a goal like that? I can't think about it. Like it doesn't come to my mind. Maybe a Jenny Hermoso header or a Arena Paredes kind of like 1-0 kind of vibes. But from a striker to have that's exactly what I was talking about. That new avenues to goal that she has the ability to do. And you could see it in the celebration. Like 1-0 against Ukraine, sure. Like you don't have to celebrate. But she was like, guys, keep doing that because that's what I want. That's why I've changed nationalities. But ultimately, look, it's amazing header, and then it was only topped by Lucia Corrales with an absolute. Honestly, I thought she turned into Claudia Pina. I thought it was Claudia Pina because the shot was so good. We were talking about Pina's near post long shot last week. This one was arguably better. Left foot to that top left corner, barring in. I mean, this is what we were talking about with the US women's national team. It's easy to be miserly at the back and not leak easy chances, like 700 minutes without a goal. That's the goal you could concede in a World Cup semi-final, and then you lose 1-0. And that's all the game could be. If you just sit tight and deep in the 18-yard box and you let Corrales take that long shot, or Pina, or whoever it is, you will be sorry because this is what they can do, because this is what Lucia can do to you. She just Hulk smashed that ball barring in. And then Athenea was fantastic.
Yeah.
perfectly hits the ball into the defender's hand for the handball, and then Vicky
That's the most
Lopez.
Athenaeus thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I mean, it was genius. It was genius. But Vicky Lopez slides the pen low and hard past
Did you
the
expect her
keeper's
to
hand.
take it, by the way?
Honestly, I've watched many a La Roja player miss a penalty, so I think they took the player that was least objectionable. I think you picked the player with the lowest penalty record to take penalty. You know what? I hope Vicky Lopez gets subbed on in finals to take their penalties, because the last thing I want to see is my goat miss another penalty. I think this is how we stop this narrative. We let the 18-year-old who's perennially a child take their penalties. Look, it wasn't a great penalty. It went in. I'm very happy about it. But, I mean, look, what I was surprised about was that the host struck back with a crazy half volley, barring in. I don't think Misa could do much about it. But what I do think could be done about it is Jana, again, caught at that back post, lazy, a bit off her rocker. And this is what happens. This is what happened in the FA Cup with LCL against Spurs. She just gets a bit half step back, does not 100% effort in that back post. And I mean, if I'm Arsenal going into this weekend, the WSL, you're coming up against a sold out LCL crowd, which is about 300 people, and then the rest are Arsenal fans. But I'd be targeting Jana. I would be, if I am who will it be? I don't think Liv Smith's fully fit, so I assume it will be it will be Mead on one side.
It'll be Mead on the right, and then who'll be on the left?
That's a crazy no Ford, no Smith. Wow, this will be a makeshift left side.
I know what we're gonna do.
McCabe further up.
No, I was gonna say we might put Stina. Do a 3-5-2. No, I think we might do a 4-4-2 or 3-5-2. Yeah, and just have
the two
them
up front.
Yeah,
Stina and Russo, but that means McCabe is targeting that left side, and McCabe could be at that back post for Jana. And honestly, I think McCabe would love an early goal against LCL as well, and just give a little shh to Kang. that would make my day at least. But I mean, other than that, I think it was pretty safe and routine for La Roja, and we can move into another Irish robbery. I mean, at this point, can we just can they just win a game for my sake? Like, honestly, I'm sick of watching and saying that they deserve to win games when the reality is that I mean, they just got beaten by a primed Bierenstein. This is what happens.
I was going to say I'm kind of sick of the Netherlands getting points where they don't necessarily deserve it. I thought last week they didn't deserve to draw against Poland. I think Poland played better for large majorities of that game. I think Ireland deserved a draw in this game. I think that once again, this Ireland team is showing the grit and determination needed if you want to make another World Cup. It's the same grit that we saw in their qualifiers to get to the 2023 World Cup, where they had to go the long way round, basically. But I think it's very positive from the Ireland perspective. I think that losses are not what you want, but against top opposition, I mean, the Netherlands and against France, I mean, there are teams in the world, cough, cough, Australia, who don't play these teams on regular bases. And as a result, we don't have that, we don't have the ability to put a barometer of our level up. And I think if Ireland is competing against the Netherlands, competing against France, I don't know who they can't compete against if it's, other than Spain and potentially the US.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I want to pose this question. Do you think there's such thing as too much chaos in chaos ball? I think Carla Ward has set up an amazing system. Like we can talk about the players that they have, Magnon and Patton and McCabe, and they're good players. They're not McCabe is world class, but the rest of them are good players, not world class yet, but they're providing a level of comfort and effort and passion. But this chaos ball that Carla Ward has created, it is a struggle for teams. They made it hard for the Netherlands. They have made it hard for France. But ultimately, when you're trying to be that technical, you're trying to even the technical playing field, I just think you need to look at your opposition a bit more. For example, when you're doing it against France, sure, it makes sense. They're a little bit more technically gifted and sound. But we watched Netherlands against Poland, and Verink's side is nowhere near the technical giftedness that France is, in my opinion. And it's kind of like they gave them the respect, you guys are the big dogs, we're the underdogs, we're going to make this rough and tumble. But the reality was that like Viv was off her game. Bierenstein ended up with a lazy, lapsy, a back post goal, and that's the kind of thing that's like that's the chance that goes begging. And you have all these amazing moments for Ireland. And I just think to myself, you know what? After McCabe scored, if they just slowed the game down a bit, could they have ended up with a point or ended up with a little bit more of a semblance of possession control in this game?
So I think that you're correct, but I think that it's not a result of colour board. I think this is a thing that Ireland have had for quite a while now. I'm going back to their games against Scotland to get into 23. I'm going back to their game against Wales, which was a completely chaotic game to get into the Euros, which they inevitably didn't get into. Yeah. And I think to myself, I think that much like Katie McCabe, and I hate to bring Katie McCabe as the character of this team, but she is.
It's endemic.
I think that it's endemic. I think that there is something that they feed off. It's a bit like a drug. It's like the Katie McCabe drug, and they feed off it because they know, and I think everyone kind of knows, a bit like those other minnow sides. This is not a team that is going to pass their way through other sides, especially a team like the Netherlands. So I think that what they want to do, and I think what a lot of other teams would benefit from doing, is bringing those top teams down to their level, down to that chaotic football. Does it get results? Maybe not.
But sometimes it does. Hard. It's hard. It's just one of those things where you're coming out of every game like amazing performance against France, very respectable performance against Netherlands, 0 points. 0 points. So we're sitting here with the same result. Like the mentality doesn't change. I can respect that, and that's fine. But at some point, like the upset is the upset is actually getting over the line, right? I don't expect them to beat the big dogs. I'm not saying it like that, but I hope when they come up against a side that isn't a top 15 side, that they don't make it miserly and they don't give them the respect. They didn't have to give Viv and Captain and Rord and Vilms the respect that they gave them to be able to create that first goal. So that first goal was Captain, Rord and Vilms playing this beautiful triangle. Then Vilms plays the ball across the box and Bierenstein's at the back post. And by the way, Vilms is an amazing player. That was not a fantastic ball. That was just not dealt with well at the back post. And Bierenstein sitting there off the shoulder. They didn't see her at the back post. And honestly, probably the worst player in the Dutch team right now to leave at the back post, because right now I saw Viv get an open shot from 12 yards out and completely sky it. I don't know what it is. When when City players put on Le Orange, vanish your form.
It was never like this with Arsenal.
To be fair, no. What will happen is Viv will pick a game in the next 3 of the World Cup qualifiers, and she will score 6 in a 45-minute period, and everyone will be like, "Wow, how good is Viv for club and country?" And I will be like, "No, she's good for 1 game every 6, but in that 1 game, she makes up for it."
I think that you talk about cultural identity with football teams and national teams being a legacy of that team. They may not be able to escape it. I think that Ireland is a really unique case where their expectations externally have changed so much. So after the World Cup and the qualifying in that campaign, I think a lot of Ireland's supporters and internally the Ireland players expected the momentum to just build. And then when it was dramatically halted to not get into the Euros, a reality check had to happen, a shift of the guard had to happen. And I think that with that comes a realignment of expectations. So right now, I'm not concerned that they're playing like this. If anything, as I said earlier, I am impressed by the way that they're playing. If in 12 months they are not in a World Cup because they continued to play like this and it wasn't getting the results they needed, then a question should be asked and expectations should readjust and change again. But I would be interested. I think that they've positioned themselves, Ireland have positioned themselves, even if it's just goal difference, to make a good run for qualification.
100%. And I mean, look, it's an interesting precedent. I think they should, the way they play. I love watching them play. They've got good crowd, they've got good aura when they score. They've got a bit of shithousery about them because I mean their talismanic figure in the team is probably the WOSO embodiment of shithousery, and I kind of love it. But I mean the only thing I had to say is that Caspi wasn't playing, and their right side looked a lot safer, looked a lot better. That Captain Rord Vilms triangle is better without Caspi, and I think Vilms complements the forward lack of press, lack of defensive recovery runs that Rord and Captain make. So Vilms is just that better recovery defensive holder who can go forward in ways that Caspi can't, but also just allows them to have that cover because Caspi goes forward, and if Captain and Rord don't track back, then they would have been screwed, right? And that's what has happened a few times.
It's the oxymoron of the Julie Brandt, Haley Rasso characterization of players doing so well nationally and then not being able to do it in club form. I think it's interesting. 100%. I think it's interesting for the Dutch team.
Yeah, and I mean, it is an interesting precedent when we weren't talking about this Dutch team the same way less than 8 years ago. Yeah. This is a unbelievable side with still world-class talent around, but I just think to myself that the city La Orange, I'm watching them and I'm like, wow, I need you guys back in sky blue right now because I don't know what's going on.
And you hope that form doesn't translate to City.
Oh, it won't. Viv will just score a brace, and she was doing the thing that I was hating on her for doing in a City kit. She was doing the hands and the face and
it's a bit CGH. It's all a bit CGH as well. She has that as well. It's funny.
Yeah, it's the unbov. It's the unbov of it all. But we will do the around the grounds quickly. Italy versus Denmark, 2 top 20 sides going up against each other. Shout out to Piemonte, amazing header off the Giuliano corner. And then, Olivia Holt ended up with the equalizer from a Sofia Svava assist, and I am the biggest Sofia Svava glazer. With a scramble in the box, I feel like Svava could have just scored it herself, but Holt does this thing where Holt never scores a goal unless it's perfectly top bins. It's kind of funny. But the big moment of this game was Pernilla Harder in the 47th minute having a penalty. This was before their goal actually, and she hits it into the post. It goes into the other post and then hits off the back of Giuliani, but she doesn't knock it into the goal. It's very impressive. But Pernilla Harder missing a penalty is sadly something I've seen before in a Bayern jersey, but I don't think, she just has to take pens. It's kind of the Hegerberg curse in that way.
It's a bit like what we saw from Harder in the Euros. I think this Danish team are over-reliant on her, and I think she's overwhelmed a lot of the time. She's constantly fed ball. She's constantly running. It's like they forget that this is not the Pernille Harder of, say, 2016. This is a completely different player and thus needs to be supported by the people around her and the entourage. And I think that Svava, as you said, played well. I think that Italy, as I said last week, I don't see them as a top 10 team, whatever their FIFA ranking is. I think that their players play the same football all the time. When they're faced up against different opposition, they rarely change how they play. I think Denmark probably could have exploited the fact that Italy are not willing to attack as much anymore like they did in the Euros, especially in those late stages of games. And I was fascinated to see how this Danish team would react to basically being a goal up, and they didn't hold it, kind of like how they didn't hold it in the Euros.
Yeah, no, it's just one of those things. I think this was I think this is a very even matchup, to be honest. Yeah. I think it's and it showed after the 2 goals were scored. The extended highlights I watched had some great commentary. It had one Italian and one Danish girl, super biased either way. It was kind of great. But Italy had some probably better quality chances. I think Denmark had the best chance with the set piece at the back post that Giuliani had to dive really well to save. But I think 1-0 a fair result.
I agree.
The same way that I thought that France's dominance was a fair result for Poland. This is pretty much our Pole Sport TV analysis again. These are my favorite commentators in the world now at this point. But God, this is what happens when France are in second gear when they're attacking, to be honest. But the left channel, when Sandy's allowed to just have the freedom to go forward, obviously we've seen what happens when that gets exploited. But when she's further forward and Melvin's in dangerous spots, they just work together so well. Katoto heads that ball in, but then Payol gets the equalizer. Comms do what they're supposed to do, talk about Payol like she's the second coming of Christ, and
which she is
amazing. Which look, there is a Gerd Muller trophy, like ready, like it's already in like engraved with her. It's just whether she can actually cement a ballon would be very impressive. But that goal was so funny. It's the least Pyle goal. Like she's absolutely shinned this. Like Pavlik's played the cheeky over the top, and she like I thought she was going to slice it in like curve the swaz into the bottom right, and she just tapped the ball, and the ball just rolls like chariots of fire. It was so funny, but other than a Tomasiak chance from distance, they got rightfully all the comms like plaudits that it deserved. It was dominance from the left side, and Karchawi was the culprit of this, getting into advanced positions. Kreziman got sent off for Poland for being a Kreziman to Karchawi or to Geora. I think it was both. It was a second yellow. Then Geora gets pulled down for a penalty. Sakina gets her brace from the spot, and then Diani scores the fourth goal at the back post on the right side with a Karchawi cross. So again, we see this for PSG all the time, but the Karchawi freedom will run games and dominate games. And it's like, honestly, there are games, I think there are more French players than not that go home after an Arkema game against PSG and go, wow, we just got absolutely chefed up by the left side dominance of Sakina.
I think that France are once again like hoodwinking us. They play these fantastic they play this fantastic football. I just kind of expect that though. So when they will go up against a top five team, even when they're put under pressure, where is it? I need to know where it goes, because at this point I feel gaslit. Like I'm watching these performances and I'm like, some of these players are looking, as you rightfully mentioned about Payot, some of these players in France are looking Ballon d'Or worthy. I'm looking even at, disgustingly, as I throw up in my mouth.
Don't even say it.
Melvin Mallard.
I knew you were going to say it. How dare you?
And it's Sandy Baltimore as well, and it's Karchawi, especially Karchawi, but it's Katoto as well. And
if Karchawi played for Lyon, we would be talking about her as like a top 5.
Exactly. And I find it incredibly fascinating to the point of frustration, because this team is so much more than the 0 trophies that they have in their trophy cabinet. And I think that they should be going into the World Cup with the confidence and with the ability that they know that they have.
It's that back line. It's when they get put into that back shell. It's without Renard. Bonadé hasn't put Renard in the squad in a while. I just think
I don't think she's playing. We talked about that. I don't think she's going to 27, which is his own thing.
I just think it's insane. Like she is just this like she is like, it's funny because when I think of this France squad, it doesn't matter if she's not playing. She's the talismanic figure. She just is. She's the McCabe. She's the Kerr. She's the shit, right? She's the dog's bollocks of this team. And when she's not there, Sombath and Ndongala and the Baltimore, this backline just is missing a Renard-shaped hole in this backline. And she's 6'3". She's the aerial threat that they don't have because Katoto is the only one who is there for it. And you just think to yourself, wow, where is their GOAT? Where is their 8-time UCL winner? Where is the player who scored over 100 goals for Lyon from centre half? Like, also, she's an extra penalty to take. If you're really going to just chuck her on the bench, like, she's someone who can take penalties and score you a penalty in a World Cup quarterfinal if you get there again. But like, I don't know. It's a question that will be asked for the ages. And then when we transition to club ball, which the only game we've had on so far, is Lyon beating Le Havre. And she scored that header. Renard scores a header. Obviously, after Chewinga and De Mornay did what we know they've been doing for the last 6 months since this season started, which is be Ballon d'Or nominees / candidates. So Chewinga with a brace of goals, one with a low-driven left foot to the bottom right, and the second one was a header that went straight at the defender and just couldn't to clear it away, sadly, just fell into the goal. But De Mornay crossed that one, played the ball for the other one. De Mornay running the game from the 10. She is just, honestly, it's so amazing to watch her. She's just one of the most fun players to watch. And then the third goal was Renard getting a Svava cross. Yep, Svava, 2 assists this week, 1 for club, 1 for country. That is the balance. So we have the Rassos, we have the Caspies, and we have the Svava pendulum, where Svava is just as good for club as she is for country.
It's kind of like she took a bit of like the Ellie Carpenter rule of just keep going. Like, as she's a player that reminds me a lot of Ellie Carpenter in the fact that she's a bit of an engine. But I think that one of the strengths that she has that someone like Ellie Carpenter doesn't have, and one of the reasons why I think Leon aren't missing Ellie Carpenter as much as maybe we thought we would, is that crossing ability. It's something that she has proven. Obviously, this is a perfect example of it. Renard being there is, of course, going to be a benefit to any team because you ping it in there and she's going to get her head on it. But I don't expect anything less from Leon. I think I've said that sentence about 1,000 times on this podcast because it is just Leon in the Arkema.
Yeah, 100%. And they just doing the business as we'll move into club ball for the next week. And we'll talk about the myriad of teams that we get to. But that is all we have for WOSO football this week as we move into our Benchwarmers Awards. So who do you have as your never bench again?
We talked a bit about it earlier. I think it has to be Stina versus Serbia. I think that this is a player, my goat, who usually is reserved for the super sub, but for
never bench again for Stina Blackstenius.
Sweden.
But to be fair, for Sweden Blackstenius is different to
It's
Gunnar
different.
Blackstenius.
You need to start her, mostly because of the established connections she has on the field. She also just likes to tire those two centre-backs down. She plays a different style of football with Sweden, one that benefits her and one that you want to see for longer periods of time and starting.
19-year-old benching a Champions League final goal-scoring winner.
Yeah, well, one has a Champions League, so...
Yeah, no, that's my point. That's my point. Is
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
That's crazy. I don't know. Like, just that sentence to me is
Schroeder deserves it. I mean, Schroeder's a fantastic player, but I mean, I just wouldn't be underestimating a fellow European side.
I think she is, but I just think she will be. You know, like, she will be
I think she will be one of the most...
she will be a fantastic player when she leaves Sweden and goes to do rest of her career. But she is going to be. I don't think she's there's a lot of hype on Barrage.
That's what I mean. I think that it's going to be one of those situations, a bit like maybe like an Alyssa Thompson, where it's going to be like, we actually need to watch this player for a significant amount of time in the higher echelon levels of European football, WSL specifically, to actually see her play well.
On where they'd go, Bar or Schroeder?
I think Schroeder is poised for a team like Manchester United, mostly because they need that type of goal scorer. Yeah, they need another Swede. But if anything, it wouldn't surprise me if they go to somewhere like Real Madrid or even...
I was going to say, I think Schroeder is Madrid-pilled. I think Bar is more United-pilled. I think the winger, they take another Swedish wing. They take a Swedish winger before they take another Swedish striker. But my never bench again is Sheridan. We already spoke about it. But SDA, Sabrina, you're going to have to wait till Sheridan dies to play for Canada now. I think it's game over. Like, that is like that celebration of her after that penalty gets skied by the Argentinian, that will live rent free in the Casey Stoney's mind. Like, that is the moment, and it's just like, you can be our keeper forever. Sheridan, you do your thing. You are one of, like, when you retire from international football, you will get all the plaudits you deserve. But my super sub of the week, you stole my two, so it's fine. I went with someone else, but I went with Dildora Nozimova from Uzbekistan, the brace off the bench, 2 goals in 30 minutes to save their tournament, to get them into the knockout stages. I wonder if she'll even be on the bench for this game against who is it? I believe it's South Korea, and that will be an interesting precedent. But hopefully, I mean, I'm going for Uzbekistan. I'm all on board for Katrina Kulbite to win this tournament. Like, this is the go right here. But who's your super subs? I actually know them. You robbed them of mine.
Well, I robbed them on purpose because I think it would be incredibly strange if Achilles fan chose the two subs that came on and changed the game for South Korea. Of course, I'm talking about Choi Rim Kang and Kim Shin Ji. I love these two players. I love them so much, mostly because as you guys may know, I don't like the Tillies. So when they came on, when they did their thing, I may not have known them before this, which is on me and my pseudo-Orientalism, but I was astounded by their performance. I was astounded by the way that they were able to just completely place a stamp on this game in a way that the players that came off did not. And that instant impact, and they completely undermine this Tilly side.
Yeah. My come on the pod is a weird moment, to be fair, in football. A very talked about moment in Lauren James. Again, this isn't really like calling her out, but just more like a moment that is worth talking about, why it should be a come on the pod. But basically the headline goes, Chelsea and Lioness star Lauren James insists she is quote-unquote very misunderstood, with quote-unquote shyness being mistaken for arrogance. And I think it is a conversation. This isn't like, I think there are things about it that are a bit weird to say in the realms of what it means to be arrogant on the pitch, what it means to be shy on the pitch, what it means to be a Chelsea player at the top of her game, and have moments change the way she plays on a field, and her being very emotional on pitches, and we see it a lot. But also just like, again, we like, I think from the like quality, from the emotional aspect of what she's trying to say here, she is trying to provoke a good message, which is that football is for every archetype. It doesn't matter who you are on the field. I just think Lauren James is a very interesting vehicle for her to be driving that narrative, in the sense of that we see a lot of Lauren James being not being particularly shy and being quite arrogant on a field, namely probably the most iconic moment for Lauren James in the last 2.5 years being that Women's World Cup moment where she got sent off for stamping on a player. And I've seen Lauren James ghost out of games and be unbothered, and she did mention that word, like, I look unbothered. It's like, well, no, you also sometimes play unbothered, like the game doesn't matter to you. But also there is arrogance when you play for the best team in the country, arguably one of the best teams in the world, and when you're winning games at Stamford Bridge 5, 6, 7, 9-1 against Liverpool, there is a little bit of arrogance that can come through, and that's okay. Arrogance is a part of football. Some of my favourite players are incredibly arrogant, namely Katie McCabe straight away. Like the arrogance is clear, but also there is the shyness doesn't come across in some ways when they are dominating. But I also think that there is room for players like Lauren James in WOSO, and we want that, and we want to not, like, I don't think we should gatekeep personalities dictating the play of footballers.
I think that it's really brave to own your personality. I think that a lot of players are shoehorned into different boxes based on how they play and then how they're supposed to act off field. I think if you watch any England, any Chelsea PR behind the scenes stuff, you know she's not the obtuse character that you would see on the pitch. I just don't love this quote unquote pick me energy. I think it's kind of really damaging to her reputation. I also think that it undermines so much of what we love of Lauren James, which is that flair, which is that skill, which is everything that I'm not saying will be replicated in her personality, because I would never say that one's personality off the pitch should be governed by how one plays off the pitch, especially as an outsider. I'm not Lauren James, so I'm not going to tell her how she acts. But on the pitch, I wouldn't, if I were her, be putting aside these moments which have been rightfully called out and just base them on your personality, because we can see, and we have seen, difference and change in her personality based on the game. I think
just look at the game she just had. She was fantastic.
I think
absolutely,
if anything,
fantastic.
Own the fact that, you know what, sometimes in games when it doesn't go my way, because of my immaturity, because of everything outside of football, I get a bit petulant, and that's okay and that's fine. But I would have rather her own it rather than shoehorn it to some personality thing that I don't think has an impact.
Yeah, but also, like, even if she wasn't shy and arrogant, it's fine. There are players like that. There are players that are shy and arrogant. I would think La Roja players are look at Kim Little. Shy.
Kim Little.
I think Kim Little would. I mean, I mean, the way players talk about her, she, like, everyone knows how good Kim Little is.
Yeah, but she's not. She doesn't go on social media. She's not that audacious character. But she does it on the pitch. Like, that's what I mean. I don't really care who you are off the pitch. I just want to see it on the pitch.
But I think it's fun. I think it's part of it. Like, for example, the Chloe Kelly show, like, that is fun. That is.
But that's
on
a personality.
And off the
that's a personality. Yes, that comes on and off the pitch.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. But that's what I mean is that I have no issue whether how you use your personality on or off the pitch, if it's part of the show, if it's part of the WOSO show, which, again, it is a brand, it is branding it, like the Alicia Leymans, the Jordan Hoytmans, the brands of the sport that have football and personality intertwined, and the Chloe Kellys. I'm here for it. I love it. I think it's. I mean, I hate when Kelly does it against my side, but also it needs to be in the game. And I think, like, again, it comes across with shy players and humble players. And look, I don't see Patry going into players' faces, but you see Brazilians go at each other, and you see Argentinians being arrogant in the miserliness and the way they play. It's a lot of it is culture. A lot of his culture. Yeah. A lot of the things she's ascribing to personality also apply to the culture of the football in that country.
And one of the things is I kind of wish she'd taken this opportunity to be like, hey, actually, what you think is arrogance is actually your veiled racism, which was prevalent throughout too, the World Cup and prevalent in English media. I would have, and I'm not telling her that she has to become a political activist, but I don't know, it's putting it on personality.
I think a lot of, you're right in saying that a lot of the criticism she has been labeled for, and I mean Jess Carter cops
it's all just dog whistling. Yeah, it's really ugly stuff.
Yeah, it's tough, and I think she hasn't missed the mark. I just think there is more complexity to what she's saying than maybe she realizes. But I think it's an interesting debate, and I would love to talk more about it with one of on her day one of the best footballers in England. Yeah. But come on the pod. Who is yours?
Mine is the Bulgarian women's national team kitman, because if you haven't seen,
the Gibraltar game magic.
Once again, a Sunday League moment goes viral in the globe of women of football as a whole, not even women's.
What do you mean?
Football.
I thought it was Gibraltar played Gibraltar.
Yes, because Bulgaria's kitmen only packed 2 kits, and both of them clashed with Gibraltar. And unfortunately, that meant that Gibraltar had to lend their away kit to Bulgaria.
Not only did they bring their home, they brought their away as well.
And they both clashed.
I
thought that Sock Kate couldn't get any worse in terms of the Sunday League.
This is worse than Scott.
This is 100% worse. I hate that it went viral, because I think it's another thing that just undermines women's football. It's just like, it's not good, especially for developing countries, developing football countries, developing women's football countries. It's not great. If anything, we can laugh about it.
Do you think there's a new kitman job opportunity at Bulgaria?
I think yes, and there should be, and it should be me. It should be me, because I would personally get one of those template kits, and I would design a kit as a third kit for this Bulgarian team, and it'll be neon, rainbow, anything that cannot be clashed with. That is what I'd be doing if I were in the FA or the kitman for Bulgaria.
I mean, I would love to. There's nothing more I'd rather see than my podcast partner as a kit person for Bulgaria. But that wraps up our dreams and goals as occupationalists in this sport, but also wraps up the Benchwarmers Awards as we move into the last segment, the What Would KANG Do number 27. We were going to do this last week, but we had that Kanglican Trinity. Now we have the WOSO. This is the WOSO TV show moment. What would KANG do if she was in my favorite TV show? I'm repping it right now. Shout out to Future Industry. Shout out to Republic City. Shout out to Avatar: The Last Airbender. But this is the Avatar: The Last Airbender KANG edition. England, France, USA, a fourth country incoming. Just wait for our next investment. All right. Long ago, the 4 WOSO nations lived in harmony. Then everything changed when football conglomerates, sporting groups, and federations attacked. Only Avatar KANG, master of all the elements who could invest in multiple countries, could stop them. When the world needed her most, she decided to go Spanish. Over 6 years have passed, and I discovered the truth about the avatar of WOSO, a WOSO chairbender named KANG. And although her fair lending is great, she has a lot to learn before she's ready to save anyone. But we believe KANG can save the WOSO world, but also destroy the world, mog the WOSO world, and whatever she wants, really. We're kind of enabling it, but look, we're here for the ride, and we'll always keep you up to date with Avatar KANG and Team Avatar KANG, because, I mean, they're just always talking about her, and we're always here for it. So shout out to all the KANG minions, the KANG clave, and everything that goes with it.
I'm so glad that I watched the last Airbender opening, because you just started that and I had to like readjust my brain because I have not watched the show, and thus you were starting and I was like, oh, okay, so we're doing the intro, awesome. And then I put like fire, water, and like all that just went back into my brain. I am not a child of Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I know, very, very sad, but we gave her the moment, but it's okay. That kind of wraps up What Would KANG do number 27. That's all we have for the podcast this week. We are on Instagram, we are on Spotify, we're on YouTube, we're on TikTok. We do full audio and visual podcasts on YouTube. We do TikTok shorts with graphics and moments, and everyone loves us, and it's fantastic. And then we have our Spotify full audio podcast as well for all you runners and cyclists and car drivers out there that want us on your ears.
Or maybe you're just like sleeping to us. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, maybe. I mean, if you do, I'm so sorry. I can't believe you listen to my voice when you sleep. But we are here and we love WOSO, and we do this every week.
Every week?
Every week. Thank you very much for listening. Have a great week.